it's getting, as I said earlier, getting to a final investment decision as the Shell EVP of integrated gas has said, is getting like a moon landing. Whereas building it is getting your people back. And I've said this frequently because it's really just like that. As soon as you start construction, all of those expectations, all of those commitments really come to fore. And so for us, it's delivering those. It's delivering the jobs, delivering the contracting dollars we've committed to. It's ensuring we build the plant safely and protecting people and the environment, and working with all of those contractors. So as you know, JGC Fluor, JFJV, is the EPC that will build the facility for us. So they're very busy on the ground. They've taken over site, taken over prime. And so really now we're in the phase of construction. And so anything and every single day is different. You know, you'll have a new issue that'll pop up that you'll need to manage, or you'll be looking forward to delivering a new contract benefit to a particular group. So there's a whole bunch of things that can happen in every day, and you have to be somewhat nimble in terms of responding to them, but then also at the same time finding the time to plan ahead for those things that you know will come, and the milestones of activities that you expect, so you can plan for them in terms of community, in terms of environmental issues, or even just frankly delivery of major pieces of infrastructure to build on site. So as I said, right now what's keeping us busy across the project is a whole host of things, from making sure the contractors are operating effectively, but largely meeting our commitments to our stakeholders, First Nations, and then certainly to our shareholders. The steps that we put in place very early on, and part of those came from really engaging with the community and First Nations right up front. So we understood what was important to them. We understood what the capacity was today in order to fill the jobs that we'll need into the future. And so some of the things we did right out of the gate was invest in workforce development. So we've already spent close to $3 million really on workforce development programs, which are really taking people from where they are today, building the specific trade skills they'll need for the jobs in construction, and now even beginning to look into operations. What are some of those skills that we're going to need? That will enable us to drive employment where it really hasn't been to before. That includes with Indigenous people, First Nations, includes with women in the workforce too. One of the gaps we've seen is certainly the number of women in the trades. So we very early on identified, well, how do we drive that? What are the barriers? And then how can we then leverage women and First Nations as we build this project and then as we operate it? So we started early on, understanding needs and interests, understanding capacity, then building the programs to help deliver the jobs to people that didn't used to have these jobs. It actually starts with them helping to advance it with us. So in other words, when we first came into the province, you know, we basically worked with local people to help understand the project and to start helping us build relationships. We've often said that we built relationships before building the project, and that's essentially what we did. The biggest advocates for this project, we didn't want to be ourselves, we wanted to be the people who would host the project. That's the community, that's the First Nations. And so what we've done to, I think, really advance this project is to work locally with First Nations and communities so they understand it, and then they become the ones who want to advance it. So it becomes a composite of a shared value proposition. In other words, it's not just about corporate interests, it's about community interests, it's about Indigenous rights issues, it's about how we build a project that becomes not so much a project, but something that's a real part of the ecosystem in a community. And that's what we started to do, and as a result now, that's advancing the story and the narrative for us. I think the one thing that we have to in this industry always recognize is there's a lot of different points of view with respect to what is the role of liquefied natural gas in an energy transition, and where is the demand for this, and how does it help us meet our climate commitments. And so one of the things that we've done on this project is try to advance the dialogue as it relates to LNG by really striving to do it better than it's ever done before as it relates to managing emissions. And so, for example, with LNG Canada, we'll have the lowest amount of CO2 emissions per ton of LNG for any large facility today. But part of that was really recognizing the importance of the environment to the local community and First Nations groups, and then also recognizing how this could become a key differentiator for us. And so far that's been working pretty well. You know, I think it's wonderful that we have a reason to have a conference about LNG in Canada, or Canada LNG, because for us in Canada we have such a fantastic supply of natural gas, you know, 5th largest producer in the world, but it's gas that we produce in a very environmentally rigorous way. In other words, the standards that we apply both from production, transmission of the pipeline to liquefaction are among the highest in the world. And so when it relates to why is it so great to have this here, it gives us an opportunity to talk about it. And we should be talking about it from the perspective of how we rank in the world. And this again going to the whole point about what's most important to communities and governments today and how we address climate change, for example, means that we should be comparing ourselves on a global scale. So having a conference like this here enables a dialogue to happen and to help us understand that we are actually doing things very well. Let's understand where the competition is so that we can continue to be rigorous in performance and shine a spotlight on the opportunity for Canadians and for the rest of the world.